I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out.
Hello, Miami. Thank you so much for watching 305 Sports Now. I am your host, Will, and joining me today is a very special guest. He is considered the father of the very popular offensive scheme in today's college football game. He has been accredited to pretty much being the mentor of Mike Leach, okay, the famous air raid head coach of Texas Tech and Mississippi State. Ladies and gentlemen, none other than the founding father of this prolific offense, Mr. Head Coach Hal Mumme. How's it going, Hal?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Will.
I'm very grateful to have you on. Like I told you before the show started, you're like a legend as far as offensive schemes go. So I'm very happy to have you on here on the show as well. So just getting started, right? Like I said, getting started. While I was doing, some digging for the show and doing some homework, your offense literally went up the ranks. Okay, it wasn't just something that came up in college. It went up the ranks. You started off in Caparas Cove High School, 1986 in Texas with this scheme. Can you tell us a little bit of the origin story of how you came up with the air raid, starting at the high school level and then taking it all the way to Division I football?
Before I went to Caparas Cove, for 4 years, I was the offensive coordinator at UTEP, and we were in the WAC with BYU. And the first year we were at UTEP, they beat us 51-7, watching Steve Young throw touchdown pass after touchdown pass on us. The fourth year we were there, we actually upset them when they were the number one team in the nation. They had won the national championship the year before, and they were number one in one poll and number three in another. They came to El Paso, and we beat them. In between that time, when we got there, my boss had Bill Young, who's a great man and was a great coach, but he was more of a run-oriented, ground and pound kind of guy. Kind of was popular in the 80s. And I was really wanting to be like Mouse Davis or Lavelle Edwards or something. So I started studying what they did, and we would cut up their film all the time. And the last year we were there, he was kind of under some heat, and we probably knew we were going to get fired. But he said, why don't you go ahead and start putting in some of that stuff you like from BYU? So I did. And about mid-season, they came to town, and we upset them. And after we got fired at the end of the season, a couple of the BYU coaches came up to me at a convention and said, what are you going to do now? And I said, well, I want to run my own show. I want to be a head coach. So I'm either going to take a high school job or a small college job. And they said, well, we'll tell you this, that we've lost some games before, but we've never lost to a team that we should have beat and got beat doing what we do. And so you're always welcome. So come up and visit anyone. So shortly after that, I took the job at Caparas Cove, and I started making 2 trips a year to Provo to learn their offense from them. And I kept bringing it back and putting it in. And the third year I was at Caparas Cove, we for about a month in February, I locked myself in my office and told the secretary I didn't want any disturbances. And that's when I kind of created all the terminology and I tried to make it as simple as possible, mainly because my challenge at Caparas Cove was we were right next to Fort Hood. And so unlike some of the big schools in the district that I played, my players would play for me in like the 7th grade and then move off to Germany or Korea or someplace with their military parents and come back when they were a junior in high school. So I had to have something that I could teach really fast and teach really simple. So I came up with this really simple terminology that is it never has more than 5 words to it. And it took off. When I took that job, there was 3 schools in the league that Caparas Cove in the whole history of playing them had never beat them, and we beat all 3 in 3 years. And then I got lucky. A friend of mine named Steve Kazor, who was the special teams coach for the Chicago Bears when they won the Super Bowl, called me and he said, I know you want to run that offense in college. Would you like to be the head coach at Iowa Wesleyan? So I said, well, I'm not sure where I was at. I think we played Drake one time when we were at West Texas. But he said, well, they're looking for a head coach. The president's a friend of mine, and I'm kind of his one-man selection committee. And so I said, how are they? And he goes, oh, they're the worst football team I've ever seen. They haven't won a game in 2 years. So one thing led to another. Steve kind of paved the way for me, and I ended up becoming the head coach at Iowa Wesleyan. And I brought my defensive coordinator from the high school with me, Mike Major. But I needed an O-line coach. And I tried to hire some O-line coaches, but in those days, it's 1989 by now, if you told any self-respecting line coach that you got to play out of a 2-point stance 75% of the time, and we're going to throw the ball 50 times a game, and I'd like you to be, by the way, I want you to vertical set and have big splits. Most of them would get up and walk out of the room before you finish that sentence. And so I made a decision that I would just hire the smartest guy I could find and teach him what I needed done. And that turned out to be Mike Leach. And so Mike became the first air raid O-line coach. We got so good so fast at Wesleyan that none of the small private liberal arts colleges around the area would play us anymore. We were independent. Mm-hmm. And by the third year there, we had our best team ever coming back, and we looked at the schedule and we said, we got to get an edge, because this is our best team and we may only win 3 games, because we were playing all these state schools that were, bigger than us, Portland State and Midwestern and Harding, and, just all these kind of bigger programs. When Mike and I wanted to get some ideas, we would always take road trips. So I told Mike, I said, find somebody in Florida to recruit. It's cold here in Iowa in February, and we need to go to Florida recruiting. So Mike being Mike, he finds a kicker in Key West. And so I could only get enough money from the president to fly to Orlando. So we flew to Orlando, and we were going to rent a car and recruit all the way down the length of Florida, all the way to Key West, which we did. And but when we landed in Orlando, Mike said, I got a friend. There was one of those spring leagues going on, kind of like I'm involved in now. And he said, I know some of the staff over there. Why don't we go to practice before we start out for Key West? So we did. And Don Matthews, the famous coach from Canada, was the head coach there. And he went on to win, I think, 7 Grey Cups in Canada. So he was really cordial to us, and we watched practice. We watched all their meetings and all their film. And then on the way out to practice, I asked Coach Matthews, I said, what's your best drill? And he goes, oh, watch bandit drill at the end. That's where we work on 2-minute offense. And so we get to that. And I'd seen 2-minute offenses done because I'd been to a lot of pro camps, but I'd never seen one done this efficiently and this well run. And, they were spotting the ball and getting the players on the line. The defense was on one sideline. The offense was on the other. They're working on their subbing, and everything was just bam, 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 right down the field, just really fast, really crisp. They were practically calling another play before the previous play finished. I looked at Mike and I said, wow, that's pretty amazing. There's our edge. And Mike looked at me and he goes, we're going to do it every down, aren't we? I said, yeah, it's not going to be our 2-minute offense. It's going to be our 60-minute offense. So we took the idea back to Cove. By the way, we signed the kicker in Key West. Okay. And several other players from Florida. We went back, we put it in the spring, and we had a great quarterback named Dustin Dewall, who still holds a lot of the NAIA records. And we went through the spring, and we got done, and I said, Dustin, what do you think about the playing fast? And he said, nobody likes it. I said, why is that? He goes, it's just too burdensome. It's too much to think about. So I said, well, let us clean it up during the summer And when you come back in August for camp, we'll do it for a week. And if you still feel that way, then we'll drop it. And he goes, okay. So he comes back in August, and Mike and I spent the whole summer narrowing down our menu. Just, we threw out plays that didn't average 5 yards. Anything that was fat in our offense, we got rid of it. And we simplified some formations. So when Dustin came back and the rest of the team in August, we ran it for a week. And at the end of that week, I said, what do you think? And he goes, oh, everybody loves it now. He said, I know what to call, because he was calling most of the plays. Mm-hmm. And so we took it into the first game, in which we were 30-point underdogs. We were playing a team ranked in the top 10, a division above us, at home, which I was starting to question why I played them at home. Could have gone on the road. Nobody would have seen us get killed. But we started out the game kind of slow, and at halftime we were down 7-24. But we had moved the ball good, and we'd had one great drive for a touchdown. So I'm walking into the locker room trying to kind of envisioning 48-14 and what to tell the boosters. And Dustin comes up to me. He says, don't say anything to him at halftime. He said, we're going to win this game. And I was looking at him like, you're not watching the same game I'm watching, obviously. And I went in there, and he was right. In the locker room, there was like we were ahead 24-7. And we came back out in the second half and turned it on. But what they knew that I didn't realize is the whole offensive line knew that the D line for the other team was totally wore out. They were going to be able to handle in the second half pretty easily. And we ended up winning the game 34-31. It's probably still one of the best victories they've ever had at that school. And we went on to do it the rest of the year. We won 10 games, and the only time in history Iowa West they never made the playoffs was that year. And we lost in the first round of the playoffs to Morehead State in minus 10-degree weather. So wow. Our reward for a great season was a trip to Morehead to play on a hockey rink. But from there, we got the job at Valdosta, and we did kind of the same thing there twice in 5 years, two sets of classes, two sets of players. And then I was very fortunate. C.M. Newton was a great athletic director, and he hired us to come to Kentucky, and we did the same thing in Kentucky. And then that's when, after 10 years, Mike got the job. Mike kept trying to get head jobs and couldn't get one. And Bob Stoops got the job at OU. And Bob called me, and he said, I want to run your offense. I want to hire Mike. Can he call plays? And I said, yeah, he can call plays. And he said, well, we want to run your offense. I said, Bob, do you want to run our offense? Because I'd seen some of the guys he hired. He had kind of who's who of his staff, And he proceeded to cite, he had been the defense coordinator at Florida, and he cited all the stats from the 2 years previous to our arrival at Kentucky, and then the 2 years that we played him. And we had put up more yards and more points and everything than first downs, the whole deal, than anybody that he had played against. So he figured if we could do it at Kentucky, he could sure do it at OU with better players. So he hired Mike to be the OC, and Mike went out there, and he told Mike, if you come over here and do it after a couple of years, you'll probably get a head coaching job. And Mike did it in 9 months. So got the job at Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. So it kind of caught on. The first year we were at Kentucky, we upset Alabama. It's the first time they'd beat Alabama in 75 years. And that was a huge win for UK. And it kind of got the attention of all the high schools in the South. And they started coming up and studying. And then when Mike went to OU and Texas Tech, the same thing kind of happened in Texas. And so then that's kind of how it spread out. And then after that, anybody that had worked for myself or Mike, people wanted to hire him.
Yeah. At the school where I teach at West End High, our former head football coach loves the air raid. Cool. And he implemented it into his offense as well. And when he found out that I was going to speak with you, his eyes like totally widened. Because he's a big fan of your offense, and he's like, send me the episode right away. So it's still working, and there's still coaches down here that love, that still love the concept of the spreads and so on that the offense brings as well. But you mentioned Mike Leach. You have a who's who of guys that, at least online, they say that they're part of your tree. Of course, you have Mike Leach, Dana Holgerson, Neil Brown's another one too. Your son Matt Mumme as well are all known as coaches that have coordinated or practiced the office known as the air raid. How important is it, Coach Hal, as a head coach, to try to bring up coordinators to become future head coaches? Like the idea of spotting that talent that's able to teach and then implement it, on his own when possible.
Well, when we first started this thing, it was so different from what everybody else was doing that I just tried to find this, like I did with Leach. I tried to find the smartest person I could find and teach them how to do it and do it our way, which was pretty foreign from the way everybody else was practicing and game planning and things like that. So it's I think it's important to hire smart people to be your assistants, and I was fortunate to have a lot of them. And Dana Holgerson was certainly one of those guys. Dana played for us at Iowa Wesleyan, and then after he graduated, he came to Valdosta, coached for us for a few years, and then got some coordinator jobs in small college. And then Mike hired him at Texas Tech. Same time he hired Sonny Dykes away from me at UK.
That's awesome. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is there's been other offenses that have been pretty pass heavy. Like you have what is known as the West Coast offense, and you have the run and shoot. How does the air raid differentiate from those two offenses?
Well, I just kind of stole from both of them. They
Okay.
were around before air raid, and Bill Walsh was one of my heroes, and all of our game planning and practice planning I got from him, and a lot of our concepts in terms of fundamentals we got from him. Our line run blocking schemes, the way our receivers catch the ball and get straight up the field. Just a lot of simple things that maybe the average fan doesn't notice, but a lot of that came from Coach Walsh. And then, Mouse Davis and June Jones were always guys that I got to be around, and I got to know them, and we share a lot of ideas. People always ask, what's the difference between the two? And I always tell them, well, there's a lot more similarities than there are differences. Probably the run and shoot's a little more of a vertical game all the time than ours. We're a little more of a throw short and horizontal, and then go deep when they give it to you. But I learned a lot from both those guys and implemented some of it into our offense. And then BYU was certainly the bulk of the thing. And my trips out there when I was at Coppers Cove and even at Iowa Wesleyan, I continue to do that. And I probably did that for about 10 years, twice a year, all the way to our time we got to Valdosta State. We just we wanted to force people to cover every receiver and force people to cover the whole field. And whatever's left of it as you're driving the ball, you got to make them cover every inch of that space. And if they don't do that, then you hurt them with a pass. If they do that, then you're going to be able to hurt them with a run.
This podcast is very University of Miami friendly because we cover South Florida sports.
Sure.
And Shannon Dawson is somebody that a lot of us were shocked when Coach Cristobal hired him as the OC, because Coach Cristobal is known for his balance, and so on as far as his offensive goes. And in the air raid has never been a repertoire that he's ever wanted as far as his offenses go. So we're happy that he brought in air raid style coach that fits the receivers that he had on his football team. But before we get more into the formations of Shannon Dawson's version of the air raid with the Miami Hurricanes, you have any Shannon Dawson stories you'd like to share with us as far as him as an up-and-coming coach, like how you met, what's your connection to him, etc.?
Well, I've got a pretty good one about when I hired him. Shannon is from, I was at Southeast Louisiana after I'd gotten in trouble at Kentucky and got run off and had to go through the inquisition of the NCAA for a year. I decided I wanted to try to give back to the game, and so they were starting a program down there. I thought, well, I more or less started one before at Iowa Wesleyan, so I probably could do that. So Dr. Randy Moffitt hired me to come to Southeastern and start that program that had been dormant for like 30 years. And we didn't have very much money. And staffs were, my staff was young guys. It was kind of a restart of staffs because most of the staff members I'd had all the way through Kentucky had moved on to bigger and better things. And so I was looking to hire somebody, and Dana Holgerson called me and he said, "Hey, I got this young guy that played for me. He really loves the game. He's really smart, and he's from your area." I said, "Oh, okay, cool. We'll send him down to see me." And then about a week later, my little assistant Amber comes in. She says, "There's an alumni here that wants to see you, and he wants you to hire his son." And so I'm thinking, oh, great. That's what I need, is one of the players from 30 years ago to have a spy in the office to tell everybody how crazy I am. So I listened to him, and it was Rick Dawson, Shannon's dad.
Wow.
But when he came in and sat down in front of me, he didn't say anything about Dana. He just talked about his son and about the X team and the local area and all that, and he'd really love to have him be part of it. And I didn't put two and two together, because I had written down Shannon's name when I talked to Dana, but I put it on one of those little pink slips, and currently it was buried under about 3 feet of paper of other stuff that I was doing. So I'm sitting there talking to Rick and really thinking, well, I finally said, okay, I'll send him in. Let me talk to him. So he came in. Well, I'm thinking he's Rick's son, not the guy I want to hire from Dana. And so he sits down in front of me, and I gave him the worst job description you could possibly think of. I said, "You're going to do all the shit jobs. If I have to drink, you're going to be my driver. If we need laundry washed, you're going to be the laundry guy. If we need video done, you're going to be the video guy." I said, we're starting this program. We don't have any money. So, I might pay you after 6 months if you do a good job. And so he goes, "Okay, I'll take the job." So I thought, damn, I thought I'd said enough to run him off. Well, he takes the job and he starts. And then, God bless her, after about 2 or 3 weeks, he's hustling around doing everything I'm telling him to do. And I'm telling him to do a whole bunch of stuff nobody wants to do.
Okay.
And Amber comes in and cleans my desk off. And the pink slip shows up. And I look down and said, "Oh, there's that guy that Dana wanted me to hire. Who is it?" And I look at it and I go, "Oh, hell, he's already working here. It's the same guy."
All right, so I gotta ask that. No.
Real nice to him after that, because
yeah, well, I bet. But now you opened up a can of worms. What exactly? One thing that you made him do that you were like, no one would ever in their mind would ever do this if they're working for another coach. So name one thing that they had Shannon Dawson do that's like.
It was. I mean, this place hadn't had football for 30 years. The stadium was crap. I mean, they were going to remodel it, but we had to have spring practice, and he had to clean the locker room, everything. Probably the worst part was having to drive me. I was like a politician. I'm shaking hands with everybody in South Louisiana trying to raise money, and it's South Louisiana. They love to drink, so I had to have a driver. So probably the worst thing he had to do is drive me almost every night.
Your designated driver.
Oh yeah, well, he's the DD. Yeah, he's everything. He's the DD, and he did that for several years. But I'll tell you what, we played the opening game there, the first game in 30 years. It was 0-3, first game in September, and we're playing Arkansas Monticello, which does not sound like an insurmountable deal. But we have a freshman quarterback and a freshman center, and I'm just happy we're getting the snaps.
Okay.
And really tight game, and we're down by a couple of points. And Shannon's job is to stand on the sideline and record the plays with a clipboard. And we have this deal we call Fox, where, we throw those little quick screens out to the wide receivers. And then at some point they bite too hard, and so we call it Fox, and you fake the quick screen and throw it deep, right? So Shannon comes up to me and he goes, "If we call Fox to the right over there, we'll probably score." And I started to jump on him and say, "Just shut up and do your job." But then I thought, no, he's pretty smart. He's probably right. And so I called it, and we won the game with that play. And so from then on, I never questioned any of Shannon's suggestions. I knew he was a smart guy. And Dana was right about him. Dana told me he was smart. So did his dad, too. I just don't want to listen to his dad.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned that because one of the things that some people that played in an air raid notice is the actual splits between what Shannon Dawson runs in Miami and want to say what you and Mike Leach ran at your respective
No,
schools.
you're talking about the O-line splits.
Yes, exactly. Your
Yeah.
line splits. How difficult is it for a coach to grow up basically running the line splits a certain way and then be told no, you're going to run it this way? Is it an easy transition to do that, or does it have to come with a little bit of modification to your own offensive scheme?
Yeah, you got it. You got to be, as the coordinator or the head coach, you got to be kind of, the O-line coach has the hardest job on offense, and you got to let him be comfortable. And so that's what I've always done. With Mike Leach, when he was the O-line coach, Mike was my O-line coach at Iowa Wesleyan for 3 years. And then we got the job at Valdosta State, and I was able to hire Guy Morris, another name who would become a SEC head coach and Big 12 head coach. But Guy had played 17 years in the NFL, so he had like kind of these pro ideas about how to do line play. He liked the 2-point stance, but then he didn't like the splits as big as Mike had them. So at Valdosta State, the first 2 years, we had splits that were kind of looked like Shannon's, maybe slightly wider than what Miami does. And then Guy got hired by Buddy Ryan at the Cardinals and left. And I went in and I told Mike, I said, I can't hire another O-line coach that's better than you as the O-line coach. So you need to move back from quarterbacks and receivers, go back to the O-line. So then he did, and we won a couple of championships. And then we got the job at Kentucky, and Guy was at Mississippi State and wanted to come with us. So all of a sudden I could hire Guy back, and then Mike could go back to coaching quarterbacks and receivers. And that, I think that kind of helped him get a head coaching job too, you know. But he had coached every part of the offense, so he knew it. He could do any of it. And he was a great person and a brilliant intellect.
Yeah, he really was.
But
Yeah,
I guess to finish up that, during that time, our line splits, if you look at them at Kentucky, they're more narrow than they were with Mike. But you know, but they're not shoe to shoe though. I mean, Guy would have like 2 feet and 3 feet or 2.5, you know, something like that. And we tried to keep them. With Mike, I'd always have to go in there and say, "Can we cut the splits down a little bit? 6 foot's a little bit too much." And so
I was going to ask you for what I heard, and for the offense, it's about 6 feet, right, between linemen. Is that correct, or should it be less?
At times, there's been that, but I think that's a little too much. You just got to kind of gauge it, and that all comes from Roger French at BYU, the great O-line coach for so many years for Lavelle Edwards, because his guys were real smart. They were older players, and they'd come to him, and they'd, like, the left tackle would say, "Hey, Roger, if we're running the sweep to the right, can I just split this guy out, this defensive end? It'll make it." And he goes, "Yeah, that's a good idea." So then they all started doing it. So then that's how the splits got to be big. But I like big splits because it helps the quarterbacks with their vision, and it also creates running lanes, you know. But I think that's something your O-line coach has to be comfortable with.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that here so many years, Coach Cristobal, Coach Mirabal, who they grew up together, they like the tighter splits. They just, you know, it's just who they are.
Yeah.
Cristobal played in a tight split with the University of Miami, coached at FIU, and Coach Mirabal the same thing. So I think that's why it's a little difficult for them to go wide.
Yeah. They may evolve to it. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I hope so, because with the numbers that Cam Ward put up this year, hopefully they'll be more open to it. So, and still putting up because there's one more game left.
Yeah, Cam's had an incredible year, and I was listening to y'all's game of one of y'all's games here recently, and they said Cam was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school.
He was.
He started out at Incarnate Word here in San Antonio, which is where our team, our Caballeros, that's where we're going to play this summer. Great little facility, but he's really had an incredible rise through the thing. Thanks to the transfer portal, I suppose.
Yeah, that too. His school ran the wing T when he was in high school, and not many Power 5 at the time schools would run something like that, if any ran anything like that. So he broke records in Incarnate Ward, got picked up by Washington State, and did the same thing there, and in Miami after what happened with Tyler Van Dyke, and they really didn't address the backup quarterback situation very well. Mario's first year, they brought him in, and they've done very well at filling those holes and at the backup quarterback position with recruiting as well. And then lo and behold, you have history. Cam Ward is now a single season holder for yards in the history of the University of Miami, breaking Bernie Kosar's old record. So
Yeah,
that's something right.
That's pretty good legacy right there.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and we're very, 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 very happy to have him here.
Yeah.
One thing I want to go over with you is I know you like film. I was told, so I want you to take a look. First thing I want you to look at, just get this video file going here, is I want you to take a peek. Let me just get it over here. We're gonna go first with Mike Leach and his Mississippi State head coaching. Hal Mumme, here we go. And you tell me like what you see in the formation, and then we're gonna go to Shannon Dawson's formations when the Canes played like the Gators.
Okay.
Let's see. It comes out soon. All right. Pause it. Hold on 1 second. Let's go back.
Yeah.
Before I say anything, ESPN, this is fair use. Do not hit me with a copyright strike, please. Thank you. This is fair use. We're breaking the video down. Do not do that, please. Thank you. All right. Sad to say that. All right. Let's see.
I couldn't see the beginning of the play. All I got was the tackle.
Okay. All
It
right.
was dark. Can you run it back one more time?
Yeah. It was dark. I did it from my phone. Let me see if I can find another one. Let's see. Let's go over here. Yeah, it's dark again. Here we go.
Okay, that's better. Okay, that's blue is the formation, two backs.
You see anything there before there was a receiver in motion? Did you see anything there before, or?
It's cut off at the top. I couldn't see the top guy. I guess he came in motion. It looks like they're beginning to run mesh.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it was mesh wheel. I think that's the back out of the backfield running a wheel route, which is kind of one of our staples. It's Mike and I our favorite two plays were mesh and four verticals, which we call six, as in go get six. That you probably could run a whole offense just with those two plays.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Now let's go into Dawson and the game against the Gators.
Okay. Turn this again.
Back. All right. You need me to go back, Coach, or?
No, that's fine for us. That would be. Mike would call that late. The formation is trips to the left, and then F jet would be the motion by the back. And one more to run it back. It looks like they were trying to run stick.
Okay.
And then Cam just took off. I think they covered. Florida had it covered pretty well. So he just made something happen with his feet.
Okay. We got one more video for you.
Okay. Let's see that again.
Bring it back. A little dark. Receiver is in motion at the time.
Yeah, it was a little dark. That's Friday is what it is. It's just a flat route by the inside guy and a vertical by the outside guy.
Got one more.
Yeah,
After this pass to
that's the
Restrepo.
little. Is that what's that kid's
Yeah, it's
name?
Restrepo.
Yeah, he's kind of he's the Wes Welker, Sean Pender of the group right there.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
All right, and
and
this
this would be blue flip would be the formation.
okay. How tight are the offensive line splits? Are Dawson's comparable that to Mike at this moment? Comparable to the first video with Mississippi State, and now you're looking at the full blown game against the Gators because it looks a lot tighter as
Yeah,
far as the splits
it's
goes,
hard to see
comparable to
without
Mississippi State.
it's hard to appreciate it without an end zone shot. But
Yeah,
I would think they're probably a foot and a half shorter than Mike's at each guy.
yeah. I tried finding the end zone shot, but I couldn't find one.
Yeah, yeah. But that's what it appears to me to be.
And this will run it.
Yeah, it's just 37.
Okay. How common are outside runs when the area first started? Or was it mostly between the tackles, or was the outside run pretty prevalent as well?
We always tried to hold it to 3 or 4 runs. Obviously,
Okay.
one or two of them was going to be a draw, and then we'd have an outside play and an inside play. It's depending on how you block it up front. A lot of your best outside runs are the ones that bounce, and it looks to me like Miami's backs are pretty good at doing that. And so he'll call an inside run, and then it all gets stacked up, and then they just bounce it outside. So
Okay.
we've the thing about our run game is that we try to, and I don't know if Shannon's doing this, but Mike and I always do. We try to call nearly all pass plays, and then let the quarterback recognize the run. We tell him it's his job to make that guy a 1,000-yard rusher, the running back. And they were always pretty adept at that because if you spread them out enough, you get a box that you like, then you need to run the ball.
Yeah. I think they have more design runs than just overpassing. The Canes are, as of right now, from what I've heard, it's about 55% pass to 45% run.
Yeah.
And most of the runs are between the tackles, unless, like you said, sir, they bounce it outside. The tailbacks bounce it outside. Very little run this season, like any misdirection runs or counters this season from Dawson and his offense. So it's been mostly between the tackles, or there's a bit of outside, but they do call out runs in the game, especially in the second half when they've had the lead. They try to beat up defenses by running the football more.
Yeah, they've become very adept at running. I looked at all their stats before I came on tonight, and through all the games, it looks like they've gotten better as the year's gone on. They've even had a couple of 200-yard games rushing.
Yeah, this past Saturday was a clinic. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, that's all I was saying. I just think to me, making the respect everybody who can carry the ball, catch the ball, or rush the ball. So that's what we always try to do. And you would spread them out. You wanted all the receivers to catch balls. You wanted the back to do both. So I think this offense is good for backs that want to go to the NFL because they learn to do all 3 aspects of the game.
No, yeah, it's very difficult to get on the field with the Hurricanes if you can't block. Pass protection is very key in this offense, and even catching the ball as well is very key. So, so for the NFL, this is a good offense for you to be in because you learn to run between the tackles, and you also learn how to pass protect, and you also learn how to catch the ball as well. You can't get on the field if you can't pass protect. That's a very important part of this offense altogether. Coach Mumme, I'm very appreciative of you coming on. Is there anything you want to promote that you're doing as of late that you want to mention on the show?
Well, check out the International Football Alliance. We have franchises in San Antonio, Dallas, Huntsville, Baltimore, Ohio Valley, which is basically Pittsburgh, Tampa, and Chihuahua, Mexico. We're going to play 8 games between June and August this summer, and they'll be on all the platforms. You'll be able to catch the games. They'll be worldwide TV. And it'd be a lot of fun. A lot of guys that maybe are at Miami right now that don't quite get in the NFL camp they want, and it's a developmental league. We think of it as like one double A baseball.
That's Thank you so much, Coach. Looking forward to hearing about that. Coach Masakis brought it up as well. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you heard, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the 5 Sports. Now, the more you subscribe, the more you share, the more you like. I'm able to bring you this content, of which I'm able to bring on people like Coach Mumme, Coach Matsakis, also recently semifinalists of the Hall of Fame, Richmond Webb as well. So check all that out as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for Coach Hal Mumme. Thank you so much again for coming on. You're always welcome on the show. If you want to promote the Alliance as well, let me know, and we'll gladly have you back on.
Thanks, Will. I appreciate it. And everybody have a happy Thanksgiving.
Likewise, sir. Thank you to yourself and to your family. Everybody have a wonderful day. God bless. See you soon. Go Canes.